So the streets are talking, Victor.
Hey,
Get him, daddy.
don't you walk on me.
Are the records that I remember the most. I've caught some smaller ones before, but those two were really big fish that I caught on fly
That's crazy.
in Brazil.
What was I going to ask you there? That is just so crazy. I'm just trying to wrap my head around a 14-pound peacock bass. Like even the little ones, they fight so hard. I mean, I feel like they put every other bass to shame.
They're great fighters. The peacock bass fights really, really hard. The catfish, also the freshwater fish that fight the hardest, I think, are like some of the red tails and the surubim catfish fight really, really hard. But they have very muscular. They're big, and they have big tails, so they have a powerful engine to move around. So the catfish, the freshwater catfish are tough, and the peacocks are tough. Other freshwater fish, I don't think fight as strong as saltwater fish.
Yeah, definitely. What do you enjoy more at this point, catching them or releasing them?
Well, now, you know what I enjoy more? Taking my wife and kind of being the guide when I take her on my boat. And I learn, I guess, what guides knew. And now that I'm kind of guiding my wife to records myself, is that when you take somebody else and they catch a big fish, or you put them on the fish that you hope that you find, it's just as rewarding as catching a fish yourself, and in some cases even more.
Yeah, definitely. What have been, out of all the records, what have been some of the most memorable ones?
Well, I'll start with talking about a blackfin tuna. I was fishing with Arostegui, and in the early spring of the year, you can go way off to the northwest early in the morning to find the shrimp boats that have been spent all the night netting shrimp, and now they have all the shrimp and bycatch, and when they come in just before dawn from netting all night, they cool all the shrimp off the bycatch, and they call the bycatch, the lingo is trash. They call it trash because after they take all the shrimp, there is left multiple different species of crabs, little fish, sponges, seashells, and they dump all of this back into the water. So what happens is 3 or 4 shrimp boats will kind of anchor up relatively close, within a mile or so of each other. And then after they pick up all the shrimp and put them on ice, they dump all the stuff back in the water. Where the guides in Key West learned that, and then they would bring a couple of 6 packs of beer, and they would trade a couple of 6 packs of beer for these guys who've been out there for days and don't have any beer or anything to drink. So they would trade you 3 or 4 big bags of all this shrimp bycatch. Our guy, in my case, I'm talking about Ralph Delph, who I fish most of my Key West experience with. And then we would just go off a little bit from the shrimp boat and start throwing the bycatch in, and huge numbers of bonitos and blackfin tunas, and in some cases cobias and small sharks, all would come in to eat the stuff. And then you're almost like fishing in an aquarium because, all these huge fish are within 10 feet of the boat.
Hey, everyone. This is Victor Lucia, founder of the Brooklyn Fishing Club and host of this podcast. If you've ever wanted to learn how to fish in New York City, now's the time. The fall season is heating up and the striped bass are heading our way. We've only got a few more weeks of Brooklyn Fishing Club lessons before the cold sets in. These sessions are the real deal, hands-on, local, and unforgettable. You'll learn how to cast, bait, tie knots, and read the water while fishing classic New York City spots like the East River, Rockaway, and Coney Island. If you're interested in freshwater, we can hit Prospect Park in Brooklyn or head to one of the reservoirs just north of the city. You can book a 4-hour lesson for up to 2 people. Each lesson includes tackle, bait, lunch, plus photos and videos to remember the day. Reserve your spot with just a $100 deposit at brooklynfishingclub.com under the fishing lessons section. Once the weather turns, we'll shift gears to ice fishing lessons this winter, followed by our spring open water sessions, and both are already filling up. Don't forget, BFC members get 20% off, so don't miss your chance to up your game and catch some fish with me before the season ends.
So in this time, again, I was looking for a 6-pound tippet blackfin tuna. And of course, one of the problems that you have is that there's 10 bonitos for every blackfin tuna. So if you just threw the fly and let it sit there to imitate a piece of bycatch, you would probably get a bonito before you got a blackfin tuna. So we were trying to be kind of judging where the blackfins were and try. So I threw this fly that I tied that looked like a little pilchard and with white feathers and big eyes that float so that the fly would kind of stay close to the surface as when I threw it in and moved it. And I threw this fly with 6-pound tippet, and from underneath the boat came this big blackfin tuna and ate it. And I had a reel that was not a really fancy reel, and I had backing on it, but I guess I did not have enough backing on it because this thing took off to the bottom and took all of my backing. And now I was about to get broken off because I had no line left on the reel. And I had to go to the bow of the boat and put the rod in the water to just give it a little extra before it broke me off. And then with one hand, I had the rod underneath the water. And with the other hand up in the air, I was trying to tell Ralph Delphin which direction to go. Because if he moved forward as the fish swam way underneath there, then I could keep from getting broken. And we kept from getting broken. And then after about 10 or 15 minutes, I started to gain some line. And after about an hour, I had the fish back to the surface. And when I had the fish back to the surface, he decided that he didn't like the boat and went all the way down again. And for a second time, an hour later, I'm have one hand with a rod all the way in the water and with the other hand telling Ralph Delphin which direction to go. And we finally landed it. So I will never forget that fish because it was one of the toughest fights I ever had. 26 pounds blackfin tuna.
Wow.
On 6-pound tippet. That's still a record. You go in the record book, you'll find it. So I have a great picture of that fish. That was
You got to send me that. Send me a picture of that.
No, I can send you lots of pictures.
Yeah,
if you
please
want.
send some
that
pictures.
One I will never forget. If you send me a text after this
definitely.
interview, what pictures you want, I'll send them to you. So I landed that one and we took it in and waited and whatever, and it is a record. That was a great fish.
What's been the toughest species to target?
The toughest species to target?
For a world record.
Well, they're all tough, because what you find out is that you say, oh, gee, I'm going to study the record situation to see, what can I target? Well, the problem is the best opportunities on lighter and lighter tippets.
Gotcha.
The 20-pound tippet is really probably impossible because so many people targeted that tippet.
Yeah.
But if you get down on tippet size, it becomes a lot more technical, a lot more frustrating, but there are more opportunities.
What about with conventional?
So, conventional is the same way, but, we were talking fly, so that's what I did, that tuna. Another fish.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great fish was I wanted to catch an 8-pound tippet shark on fly, 8-pound tippet. And I think the record was about 100 pounds or maybe 90 something at that time. So, 100-pound fish, 100-pound fish, 8-pound tippet, that's not easy. So we are in Key West, and the way we fish for these fish is we catch a barracuda, flay it open, and tie it to the bow of the boat, and then we drift. And then the current and the wind create a scent line. And the sharks are evolved to have a very strong sense of smell. Their nostrils process large amounts of water, and they can pick up scent of just a few parts per million in the water. So as soon as they cross a scent line, they will come upstream to find what injured fish produce that scent so they can eat it. And we use that ability of the shark to do that to catch them. We put in this scent line with this barracuda, we drift, and as soon as the shark crosses a scent line, they'll come in. As soon as they get close enough, you can see them. Well, we're doing this thing. I have an 8-pound tippet that I tied myself. I have an orange fly that I tied myself. And here comes a fish. And when, you see him in the distance and it's just a blurb, gray blurb. But when it gets closer, you can see exactly what kind of shark it is. And we were looking for a lemon or a whaler because the category is whaler. So lemons are part of that category. Bulls are also part of that category. So this lemon comes in and I said, oh my God, this lemon is over 200 pounds. You can kind of get a pretty good idea when they get within 30 or 40 feet of you. So the idea is, so I looked at this thing and I said, should I just forget about throwing the fly? And I said, I got 20 tippets tied in a bag, and I got 20 flies that I tied myself. So what the hell? What's the worst that can happen is I'll lose the tippet. So I threw the fly. The idea is that you throw the fly before the shark gets to it, and you let it sink a little bit, maybe a foot or two below the surface. And then when the shark is within a foot or two of the fly, you strip it once, about maybe 12 inches. And now the shark is in that scent that you produce, and now this orange fly moves, and it's then the shark thinks that the scent is coming from that fly, and it is not, because you're not allowed to scent the fly. You can scent the water with a barracuda, you cannot put scent on the fly has to be clean. So the shark comes and eats the fly. So I throw this the fly, wait for the proper moment, strip it. The shark comes and piles on the fly. I set the hook, and again, you're talking 8-pound tippet. You have a 200 and something pound shark. So hooking the fish without breaking the tippet off is a challenge of its own. So I hook the fish, and now the challenge is to stay connected to the fish and to put some pressure on the fish, and you got to wait at least for an hour for that fish to tire. The shark will swim all over the place and swim fast here and there and whatever. And Ralph was very, very intuitive of what was going on. We usually waited until the shark was really tired, and then Ralph would pick up and was swimming right next to the boat. Ralph would pick up the gaff and then gaff it in the tail. And then I'll explain how that process goes. But this time, halfway through the fight, Ralph already has the gaff in his hand. And I was surprised about that, but he's too busy to worry about talking to him. I'm just paying attention to not breaking the fish off. And then as the shark gets tired and gets really close to the boat, all of a sudden the shark turns around and attacks the engine. And when the shark attacks the engine, Ralph is ready with a gaff and hooks it in the tail and brings the tail out of the water. I run over there. I know what to do. I drop my fly rod. I pick this line that had a stainless steel clip at the end, and I put my arms around the shark's tail, hoping that he won't slap me and knock me out, and tighten it up, and then tie it to a cleat. And now we have the shark live and tied to a cleat to the side of the boat. Now we got him. The weight of the shark will not allow the noose to get loose.
Wait, so is that shark just getting measured, or is it getting killed?
That shark is not getting killed.
Gotcha.
That shark, now we go to the front of the boat. Ralph had this contender with a special live well that was underneath his coffin box, which is a big box that people in Key West would put in front of the boat. But in Ralph's case, he designed his whole deck, and he had 2 hydraulic pumps, and he pushed the button, and the coffin box would tilt upwards and sideways and expose the whole live well. So we would fill that live well with water and bring the shark to the back of the boat where the gunnel was closest to the water, and we would bring the live shark into the boat and then slide it into the front and into the live well, dump a bag of ice in there to cool him down a little bit, and run to Key West. So we ran to Key West with the shark and took it out, put it into, oh yes. Yeah, if I tell the story to people without pictures, they'll think I'm telling them a tall story.
Well, that's one of the 3 rules of Brooklyn Fishing Club is no picture or it didn't happen. Or
right.
a picture or a picture or it didn't happen. Yeah, I know you do.
I have it. I have you do. So then we bring it in, we put it on a certified scale, we measure him, and then we weigh him. We take all this information down, then we put him back in the water, and we walk the shark. We would go to this marina where right next to in the dock where the certified scale was, there was a shallow water area so that we could jump into the shallow water area with the shark and revive him. And when the shark started moving a little bit, it was time to get out of there before he got too feisty and bit you.
Oh, yeah.
And we released the shark. So I caught 4 world records over 200 pounds with Ralph, and we released them all alive.
Wow.
And the biggest one was the 385 pounds.
Which one was that one?
And that one was the last one.
Tell me that story.
Well, we were looking for a tiger shark. It was on a different year, and it's springtime, And Ralph said, we're going to go to this place because a few of my friends have sighted tiger sharks in the area. So he said, Marty, the 12-pound tippet is vulnerable. That means we have a shot at the 12-pound tippet fish. So, okay. So I tied the 12-pound tippets and stuff. I would use Mason line, which over-tested by a tiny little bit, but after you fought the fish for an hour and the tippet rubbed against the body of the shark, it reduced the tensile strength of the tippet to the point that it always tested okay. So I was using 12-pound tippet, and we're looking for a tiger shark, and all of a sudden this monster shows up. It's not a tiger shark, it's a lemon shark, but it's the biggest lemon shark I have ever seen. So I said the same thing. Oh, what the hell? Throw the fly. Marty, if he breaks it, you have more flies. So we hooked this thing. I don't know how long the fight lasted because tiring this thing out took quite a bit. It had to be 2 hours. And I guess the challenge here is to hold the fish. Now, because he was so big, it did not thrash about and change directions a lot. It kind of stayed steady in one direction. And as a result of that, the tippet was not scratched against his body. So the line, when we brought the fish in and I turned the shark in for a record, the line over-tested. It tested 13.8 and it could only be 13.3. So it went into the 16-pound category. So the shark became a record on 16-pound tippet. And the shark weighed 385 pounds. That is the biggest fish I ever caught on a fly rod. And in 2000 and I don't remember which year I caught that fish now, but the year that I caught that fish, it became the biggest world record ever caught on a fly rod.
Wow.
At that time. Today, it's the second biggest. Somebody caught a bigger shark, a tiger.
Really?
A friend of mine, another guy from South Florida, caught a tiger in the Bahamas.
What was
But they didn't release it alive. Mine, we released it
they
alive.
killed
Now,
it?
we had a problem. Ralph and I were able to bring fish up to about 250 pounds into the boat because it was him and I fishing alone. We didn't have mates and this and that and friends or whatever. It's just him and I. So this 385 pounder, we did everything. He gaffed him in the tail. I put the rope around his tail. We tied it to the cleat. We filled the life well up. We could not put the shark on the boat. So Ralph said, Marty, we're going to have to kill the shark because that's the only way we can bring it in. We can't, you and I cannot physically put it. We tried 4 times. But then I saw a boat, and because we were in the Marquesas, I saw a boat that was fishing for permit, just not too far from us. So I said, Ralph, let's putt over there to see if they can help us. And it turned out to be some friends of his, a guide and a couple of clients. And they were all big guys. So a couple of them jumped in our boat and they helped Ralph and I. Actually, they helped Ralph and I took the pictures. And I got the pictures of all of them pulling the shark into the boat. We put it into the live well, brought it into Key West, and we waited. The first time that we weighed a fish, we used ropes. And I did not like that because you had to hang the fish from the neck. And I said, we're hurting this fish. So I went to an area here in South Miami where they did canvas work. And I had them make a double layered rubberized canvas sling that was 4x8 with handles so that you could put the fish in there and that with the handles you can pick it up. 4 or 5 people could pick it up. And that's what we did. We put the shark in the sling. And when we took it out of the live well and 4 or 5 people helped us take it to the scale, certified scale, weighed it, measured it, and I have a picture of Ralph's son, Mike, releasing the fish into deeper water in the channel right next to the marina.
That's beautiful. I can't wait to see that picture.
Yeah, I have that. Cool. I have that set of pictures too. That was the biggest one, but the toughest one was the 247-pound lemon on 8-pound tippet. That was really tough. That was the one that bit the engine. Yeah.
I live right by the Bright Line over here in Jensen, and freaking train is going by. I was like scrambling to try to mute everything so I didn't pick up the train. Sorry.
No problem. Those were some of the bigger fish, but I caught a lot of small fish too. I didn't just catch all monsters. If IGFA designated a fish a record fish, I went after it.
What's your favorite fish of all time? Mine is the wahoo.
I don't know. You
don't have one that you think is like just the ultimate badass fish in your mind?
Well, the big peacock bass in Brazil are really tough.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So I enjoy catching them. I enjoy sharks.
I could tell.
I mean, I'm telling you about the fish. We caught a lot of black tip records that were small fish and light tippets, and some lemons that were small fish and light tippets. And in some cases, in order to weigh him and not kill him, I jumped in the flat. We caught him. You know, we always end up catching these fish in shallow water. So in deep water, it's very difficult to catch them on fly. So if we were on a flat, and I'm talking about a 25-pound lemon, I would jump in the water and hold the fish and take the, my guide would weigh it, and I take the picture of him weighing it, and then I would hold the fish, because you need a picture with somebody weighing the fish with a scale, and you need a picture of the angler and the rod and the fish. So we would do all that in the water, and then release the fish. So I released, I became very concerned about killing fish unnecessarily. So most of the records that I caught, I released alive.
So
not all of them, but most of them.
What were some of the ones that you killed, and did you want to, did you have to kill them because they were gut hooked or something?
I caught early on, I caught a barracuda on fly with Captain J.C. Wells in Marathon.
Yeah.
And that fish we had to kill and bring in and weigh him in a certified. At that time,
what was the record for that one?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. It's that I should have warned you about this. One of the toughest parts of doing the phone interviews is we can't read each other's body language, so I will end up cutting you off. So I apologize. I should have apologized.
No problem. No problem. I understand.
Yeah. So I don't know. What were we just talking about right before that? Sorry.
Well, we're talking about releasing different fish.
Yeah.
Whenever I could, I would. For example, we were in Panama one time, and we were fishing in an area where there was a lot of Pacific snook by a beach. Yep. And it was a right tide. The tide was coming out, and they were all on the beach because there was a lot of small bait fish that they were eating. So we put some flies on, and my son and my wife had some light tackle stuff, and we caught 3 or 4 snook at that beach. And what we did, we could not land there because it was rocky and stuff right on the shoreline. But we put different tags on them so that we would know which fish was which. And then we went a quarter mile away from there on a beach where we could beach the bow of the boat and jump out, and we processed the fish there. We weighed them and measured them and stuff and released them all alive. So
beautiful.
in that situation, I think it was 4 snook that we had in the live well.
Wow.
When I was fishing for the Med Tournament Hall of Fame and I needed a 20-pound permit, I caught that fish with bouncer right in one of the wrecks in front of Key Biscayne. And we put it in the live well on my boat, and we ran into Miami Beach Marina, weighed the permit, and released it right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
what are a couple of your top favorite memorable stories with fishing with bouncer?
Oh, wow. Well, the most famous fish I caught with bouncer.
Really? Tell me that story.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Let's go.
When my son was about 8 years old, he came to me and said, "Dad, I want to go swordfish fishing." And I said to him, "Martini, in the 70s, there was a big swordfish fishery that was discovered here in the Florida Straits. And actually a tournament was started, and it was very successful initially, but then the longliners came in and wiped the place. And one year they held the tournament and hardly anybody caught fish, so they canceled the tournament." So I said to him, "I'll call bouncer and I'll find out." But, in the 70s, I tried one time and I didn't get any, but all those fish were gone when the longliners came in. So I called bouncer, and bouncer said, "Marty, there is a lot of fish because the longliners are now prevented from fishing in the Florida Straits. And now we have lots of fish." So Martini went with me that one night, and he caught an 80-pounder. He was 8 years old. And that,
You said an 80-pounder?
80-pound swordfish, yeah. We had a cabo,
awesome.
And I bought a Skopinich fighting chair because you could adjust the pedestal on it so that a little kid could sit on the chair and put his feet on the pedestal and fight the big fish. So Martini fought that fish fighting on that chair and landed it. Well, Martini was also doing gymnastics at schools, so he was pretty strong. So he landed that fish. Well, that kind of began us fishing for swordfish with bouncer. And I kept on saying, one day I'm going to try to catch one on fly. And I actually prepared a rig, and on a couple of trips, I brought the fly rod. I never used it. And then one day I said, I'm going to do this. And I started talking with bouncer more seriously about it. And I had a 2-hook fly that I had designed for catching halibut in Alaska that was white with an orange neck. And not orange, purple neck. and bouncer found a little cyanide light, which they call a lunker light, and we put the lunker light in the middle of the two hooks. So now when you put that fly in the water, it looked like a squid. I'm from spearfishing, learning how to spearfish in Cuba, in the famous seawall in Havana called the Malecon. I saw a lot of squid schools there, and the squid will bend in the water, mid-water, and then just kind of make little jumps. So I tried to set up the fly with a sinking line, and I made little strips to imitate a squid. And that night, Martini was with us too, and we had two lines in the water for him, two general tackle lines with bait, one in about 50 feet and the other one at about 100 feet deep. But the way that the current and the wind blew, the stuff was on the side. Are you there, Victor? Okay. I started fly fishing, and all of a sudden, I get a bite, and my rod bends over, and the thing is thrashing, and you can see from the bending of the rod, and I'm trying to set the hook, and then all of a sudden, the line comes loose. And I said to we brought it in and looked at the fly. There were no shark teeth or any other marks, so we said he was probably a swordfish. But I said to myself, I missed my bite. We're in the middle of the ocean. This is a needle in a haystack, and I just missed the bite. But I kept on fishing, and an hour later, another fish hit the fly. And this time, it almost yanked the fly rod out of my hands. As it turns out, the swordfish hit the fly with his bill, but the second hook caught the base of the bill, which is really bony, spongy bone, and it got hooked really good. But that thing took about 500 yards of backing. I mean, I didn't think it was going to stop. And it took me forever to bring it in. And when I brought it in and saw the lights of the boat, it took off again. But by that, we still did not know what it was. And we've been fighting this thing for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. And then all of a sudden, it's now tired and it comes to the light. And when it comes to the light, bouncer starts jumping up and down. He says, he's got a bill. He's got a bill. And he grabbed the swordfish. He grabbed the swordfish by the bill and yanked it on the boat. And we had caught the first swordfish and fly in Florida and maybe in the United States.
That's amazing.
There have been some swordfish caught in Kenya, but not in the United States. We photographed it, we measured it, and it was just a half-inch short of legal. So we took some pictures and released it.
Oh, man.
But we got some great pictures. So that was probably the most famous, one of the most actually two famous. That was famous because it was the first swordfish. It was all over the magazines and the Herald and the Sun Sentinel.
Yeah.
Other magazines, wrote about it, and it was in the Florida Sportsman. But when I caught the 385-pound shark, which at that time was the biggest fish I ever caught on a fly rod for a record, it made the wire service, so it was all over the country.
That's so cool.
I forgot about that. So those were the two most famous fish I caught. But in between those, I caught a lot of little fish on, for records. Somebody from Australia said that I had caught too many aquarium fish.
Fuck him.
So when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I had already been inducted 5 years before him. So when he was inducted, I came to him, shook his hand, and I told him, I'm the aquarium fish guy. Welcome to the IGFA Hall of Fame.
I love it. That's awesome. What was his reaction?
Guys got big. I guess he didn't expect me to be there, or that I maybe he didn't even know that I was in the Hall of Fame. I don't know.
What year did you get inducted into the IGFA Hall of Fame?
Hold on. I have a plaque behind me here. 2018.
2018. Beautiful. Was that a really, it obviously was, but how important of a night was that to you?
Oh, that was very important. I mean, that, when you get international recognition at the top of your game, on any sport that you do that is like the pinnacle of recognition of your efforts.
Absolutely.
It was not just all for fishing. It was also for some of the conservation stuff that I did and other activities that I did on behalf of international angling and stuff like that.
Let me ask you this.
A lot had to do with the fishing.
Let me ask you this. I don't know how to phrase this properly, but where does the ego part of it come in? Where you're like, I got to get another one.
Ego.
Or I don't know. I'm only as good as my last one. I got to get another one. I don't know. I call myself the ugly fish guy. When
I was a member of the board of trustees. And when I was selected to the Hall of Fame, before the board of trustees votes on me, anybody that is in the board, you have to leave the room. So I left the room, and then they decided, on all the inductees for that year and whatever, and they decided to keep me as part of that group. So when I went in and they said, "You've been selected into the Hall of Fame," I told them, "I accept this honor on behalf of all the ugly fish." And the reason I say that is because, a lot of people,
I love it. I love that.
A lot of people only want to fish for bonefish and tarpon and snook.
You're like, I'm here to represent the ugly ones.
And marlin, and I'm here to represent the Oscars and the mudfish. And God
What's
knows
the ugliest? What's the ugliest fish that you have for a world record?
I don't know. It depends upon what you consider ugly. I mean,
you tell me what you think it is based off what you consider ugly.
It's either between a snakehead and a mudfish.
Oh, what's your world record for snakehead?
Well, I had a few of them. I started here one day. I went with Alan Zaremba early on when the snakeheads were made a record, and using light line and fly, I caught 4 records in one day.
What? Is that the most records you ever got in one day?
I think so.
Wow.
I think so. And one of them, we caught a couple, and then I went down to 2-pound test line, and I had a little torpedo, and there was this area in this narrow canal that had a dead tree that had fallen in, and it had 1,000 little branches all sticking in the water. And I threw close to it, which is kind of like suicidal, because if you hook anything and it takes you in there, it's going to break you off right away.
Right. And
I had a bite, but it didn't get hooked. So then I said to Alan Zaremba, "Alan, let's come back here in 10 minutes. Let's give that fish a few minutes to calm down, because snakeheads are pretty spooky." And we're talking here, the snakehead that is in South Florida is the bull's eye snakehead, which the scientific name is Shanna marulius. And I came back 15 minutes later again. We just went off for a little bit and took a little rest and came back and threw the torpedo. And this thing came and inhaled it. And instead of fighting into the bushes, it fought into the middle of the canal.
It went deep.
5 minutes. Yeah. 5 minutes later, it was netted.
Wow.
And it was only 6 and something pounds, but at that time it was the records have not been well established yet. So it ended up being a line class record and an all tackle. It was the biggest one entered at that time.
Wow, that's crazy.
So that was a 6 pound. So that day I caught 4 records. I caught 1 on fly. But then Martini, for his 8th grade graduation, he never saw a B. All he saw was A's. He was a very, very good student, a very, very nice kid. So we said, for your 8th grade graduation, what do you want to do? He said, I want to go to Thailand and Malaysia to fish with this French guy called Jean-Francois Helias. And Francois was catching all kinds of big snakeheads and Mekong catfish and barramundi and all kinds of stuff over there. So we went to Thailand with my wife, and then from Thailand, my wife came back home, and Martini and I went with Francois to Malaysia to fish for the giant snakeheads. That one is called Shanna micropeltis, and they're gold and silver and black. And a little pink. And they get to 35 pounds. So we were fishing for those fish over there in Malaysia in a lake called Tamangur Lake. And I caught a couple of records, not on fly. They were spawning at that time. We went at the time that Martini could go because he was on summer vacation. And the fish were spawning. So to catch them, what we had to do is we had this little catfish for bait, light bait. And we waited for a snakehead to come up and gulp air at the surface. They are obligate air breathers. So they come up for air every 5 or 10 minutes. All of them do. So when one big one came up for air, you had to throw with a spinning rod, the little live catfish right in the middle of the ring that it caused when he came up and took a gulp of air. And if you put that catfish in that ring, inside that area, when the catfish started swimming down, the snakehead would eat it. And you would know that the snakehead ate it because it would expel all the air that it had just gulped.
Yeah.
And he came up as little bubbles. So as soon as you saw a lot of little bubbles, you said, "Oh, he ate the catfish," and then we set the hook.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
we caught 2 or 3 records. We had a good time in fishing in Malaysia.
What were the biggest ones you got there?
I think they were about 12 pounds.
Wow. They're like the purple and blue ones, right? They're pretty colorful. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. So
Do they fight harder than the ones we have here in Florida?
Yeah, because they're bigger.
Yeah, I mean, but they're also kind of like a different breed. Like, do you think that?
Yeah, I've caught all 3 that are more commonly caught. I've caught a bunch of here of the Shanna Marulios, the bullseye snakehead, which is the one that is here. I caught the ones in Malaysia, which is the big one, the giant snakehead. And then last year, I went to the Potomac River. My son is a marine scientist, and he's working out of Woods Hole. But during the pandemic, he moved to, and they were from off campus, and he was living in Virginia. So we went to fish for the northern snakehead in one of the bays up there and off the Potomac, and I caught one about 8 pounds.
He has a bunch of records too, doesn't he?
Yes. Yeah, Martini started when he was 4 years old or 5 years old, when the IGFA started the junior records program.
Wow.
And I took him and his sister, Danielle.
She has records too, right? The whole family has records, right?
They both caught gars.
Okay.
And those were the first 2 junior records that they had. Martini had a gar and she had a gar. Martini went on to catch all kinds of fish. And by the time that he was almost out of high school, he got a Lifetime Achievement Award from IGFA for having achieved over 100 world records. And now he has 206, but he's now too busy doing scientific research, tagging swordfish and marlin and all kinds of other stuff, and he doesn't have time for records anymore.
It sounds like he got enough. Like, I think he's good. I don't know. I mean, he could always come back to it, right? When would you say, so who's older, Martini, or what's your daughter's name?
No, I have two daughters. The oldest one is Allie.
Okay.
And she's got a couple of records that she caught in Costa Rica.
Nice.
And the middle kid is Danielle, and she is a climate analyst with Environmental Defense Fund, and she lives in North Carolina, close to Asheville. And Martini is the baby. He's 31.
Got you. So every single kid has a world record?
Yes.
That's amazing. I wonder if that's a world record in itself. Like, what father has every single kid having a world record for fishing? Like, that's got to be, that should be a Guinness record in itself right there. Like,
I don't,
that's crazy.
we have a lot,
I guess it's
family,
like, I'm sorry.
We have a lot of records.
I guess it's like probably similar to, I don't know, being a professional athlete and trying to raise, your kids to follow in your footsteps, like the way LeBron James' son is playing in the NBA,
Right. Well,
Yeah.
we made it a family affair. We felt very strongly that wherever we went, my wife and I, we took the kids and,
Yeah.
we went to Alaska and started catching yellow-eye rockfish records over there. And we went here and we went there, we went to Costa Rica. And then when Martini got older, he became intensely interested in it. To the point that he's now a marine science, a fishery scientist, because
That's awesome.
he did his PhD in trout and salmon, but now he's mostly doing deep water fish. And a couple of weeks ago, he sent me a video of him tagging a swordfish that he caught in the canyons off Cape Cod.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so very cool.
And so him and his partners are doing lots of really heavy-duty tagging of all kinds of deep water fish.
So when you got inducted into the Hall of Fame, you had the whole family there and everything?
Yes.
Oh, it's so
Yes.
cool. Beautiful. Who else was in that class of inductees? It doesn't even matter, does it?
I can't remember. The one that was
I can't remember.
the one that I remember the most was a guy named Barrett, a gentleman that when ESPN had TV shows on Saturday morning, which I watched every Saturday. ESPN doesn't have TV shows, fishing TV shows anymore.
Yeah.
But this gentleman did a lot of sea-run brown trout videos.
Oh, that's so cool.
In Chile.
What?
And,
in Chile? They must
yeah.
be gigantic. Like what? Like, are we talking like 15-pound
They get
fish.
pretty big.
Yeah. I
So,
love
so
trout,
he was
by the way.
inducted. He was inducted with me because I remember that we did a kind of a podcast together right that night. We were interviewed by somebody. Barrett is his name, but I can't remember his first name right now. And he's a wonderful guy. And I remember watching his videos. You know, at that time he was one of my favorites, along with Flip Pallet and Larry Dahlberg.
Yeah, I got to
I
track
watched
down Flip Pallet.
I watched those
Every
shows. Yeah,
yeah.
I fished with Flip when he was a guide before he left South Florida.
Oh, he
I
left.
fished with him. I fished with him a couple of times.
Let me ask you this: have you ever had any close calls with death in all your travels and all the fishing? I mean, it is a bit of a risky business at times.
Not really. I did have a bad incident recently. I bought a new boat in December. I have a 15-foot Maverick with a 40 horsepower engine, and I gave it to my son, and he took it to Virginia. And we just were fishing this weekend with him and that boat for blue catfish. My wife actually entered a record that she just caught from there. But I bought myself a 17-footer in December. And in May, I had only used it. The engine only had 15 hours. I was coming back from fishing in Tamiami Trail, in a place that we have lots of peacock bass and largemouths and all kinds of stuff in the spring when the water is low in the Everglades. And when I was coming back, some lady hit my boat, and then I was in the car, and it totally destroyed it. And thank God that the trailer disengaged from the ball of the hitch.
Yeah.
So it flipped. It still got hooked to the car, but it did not flip the car.
So she totaled the boat?
So it totaled the boat.
She did. That's crazy.
The front end of the car picked up the wheel, so it raised the wheel up, and the boat went in the air and landed on the other side. And then, because the car was moving forward, and the two cables that held the trailer to the car pulled on the boat, it flipped it back up in the air and landed on the other side.
Oh my God.
So now I have a new boat because it was totally destroyed.
Well, thank God for insurance.
I am very careful in the water.
Yeah.
Very, very careful. I've been having boats since I was in high school.
Let me ask you this. Do you fear the ocean at all? Like, do you not go in too deep because of the sharks? Like, do you have any fear of the water?
You mean like swimming?
Yeah, like swimming, like when you're just chilling at the beach with the family, like whatever. Yeah.
Well, I've done, when I was in Cuba, I learned to fish and spearfish pretty much at the same time when I was 8 or 10 years old. So I have been in the water diving, mostly free diving, all of my life. And I am very respectful of sharks and very careful. I will not go in the water and swim any place deeper than my knee.
That's what I'm talking about.
Unless I have fins, mask, a snorkel, and a spear gun.
Unless you're fully armed.
Yeah, I've had one time, well, I do have an experience with sharks that you said close, experience. I did have one. Which I'm writing a book, and I wrote it. I wrote about this, and I had forgotten about it when you first asked me. So I talked to you about the boat being destroyed. But
yeah,
when Martini was about 8 years old, we went on my bigger boat. I had a Cabo 35. My wife, my daughter Danielle, and Martini and I. On an October morning, that the water was beautiful, and there was no wind, and it was clear. And it wasn't cold yet. No cold fronts had come through, so it was nice and warm. We went out in front of Elliott Key, or actually Sands Key, all of the keys that make the part of South Biscayne Bay. And we jumped in the water in about 10 feet of water looking for lobsters. This is before the lobster season closed or whatever. And we were in about 10 feet of water. Martini and I, my wife and my daughter had stayed on the boat. And we were swimming around. I had a net, and Martini had a tickle stick, looking, to go look for lobsters. And all of a sudden, I saw like something gray on the side of my peripheral vision. And so I looked, and when I looked, now a 300-pound plus hammerhead is swinging around, and they can swing around really fast, and it's facing me.
Holy shit!
So shit is right. I took Martini and put him behind me. And an important lesson that came from tarpon fishing. And that was when I was learning how to cast the tarpon. My guys would say, Marty, the tarpon don't like it when the fly attacks them. When if you didn't put the fly in the proper place and the fly was moving towards the tarpon sometimes would just run away. So I remember that lesson, and I took the little net, a little bull net to try to catch lobsters. 4 feet long, with a little aluminum rim, and I punched him in the horns because he was right there. More like pushed him, didn't punch him, I pushed him. And when I did that, the hammerhead turned around and took off.
That was it?
And that was it. But that thing was
I bet your adrenaline was freaking pumping.
huge.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said, I bet your adrenaline was pumping. You had your son in the water with you.
It wasn't even out of the water and told my wife to start the engines on the boat with the idea that any new noise might
spook
make them wary.
Yeah.
And I put my son behind me and swam backwards.
Wow.
And I learned the swimming backwards because every once in a while I'd be spearfishing and hook, and shoot like a little grouper or a hawkfish or something.
Yeah.
And then a big barracuda would come to try to take it out, take it from me. And I would swim backwards back to the boat, pointing the spear gun at the barracuda. So I kind of did that. I swam backwards with Martini behind me up to the boat. My wife was waiting right there in the dive platform. She picked him up. I jumped in, and we were safe.
And after that, you were like, I'm never going back in there without a spear gun.
No, I get them going in the water.
The shark problem in the Bahamas, though, has gotten pretty bad, though, right? I mean, they've got people getting attacked. I just saw that in Jamaica, first time in a long time. I think it was like a 17 or 18-year-old kid spearfishing. He just got eaten by a tiger shark. Well,
tiger sharks are fearless.
Yeah, because what I've read about them is that if they come to eat you, the same thing they'll do to a turtle, they'll do to you, and they'll take your arms first, and then they'll go in for the kill.
Well, you have to be very careful. I never faced a tiger shark. Most of the spear fishing that I did was right here in front of Miami. I did a little bit in the Bahamas. In the Bahamas, you have to use a Hawaiian sling. Most of what I did in the Bahamas was lobstering more than spearfishing fish. But what I learned from fly fishing for sharks is that once there's a scent line in the water,
that's it.
They can come in really hard. I mean, I've had some sharks come in that appear to be desperate. Other ones come in, slowly and cautious, but some come in so fast. I had one that hit the boat.
Wow. Have you ever seen a great white?
Yes, in South Africa.
Did you try to catch it?
No. We went on a cage.
Oh, you did the cage diving?
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was the biggest one that came in?
There was one that had to be 2,000 pounds. I mean, it was huge.
I mean, what is the length on that? Like 14, 15 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it was dark and it was so wide.
Oh my God.
It was huge. I mean, we saw 8 or 10 sharks that morning. What happened was my daughter went on an around the world or whatever trip, which is like a semester at sea.
Oh, right. Who'd she do that? Did she do that with, by any chance, did she do that with Action Quest?
I don't remember the name of the company that she did it with.
I know they're big down here with the semester at sea. I went to their camp when I was a kid. They do this. Yeah, my mom wanted me out of the neighborhood in the summer. She knew that'd be nothing but trouble. And so she's just a blue collar nurse. She saved up money all year. And every year when I was in high school, she would send me away. I know it sounds terrible, but it really wasn't. It was amazing. Like the first year I went to the British Virgin Islands for 4 weeks, lived on the boat, got certified in scuba. The next year I went back, I got my certified night diver, wreck diver, equipment specialist. And then she sent me to Australia and I got my advanced diver on the Great Barrier Reef.
Oh, that's great.
It was amazing. No, I shout out to my mom.
Oh, Ron, that was great. Well, my daughter kind of had a similar experience like that. And the parents could come and visit and different places. And we decided to go to South Africa.
Oh, that's
And when we
awesome.
went to South Africa, she told my wife, when you come here, we need to go diving with the great whites. There's an island close to where we were that has thousands of seals and stuff, and it's just a magnet for great whites. So we went on this boat, which was actually National Geographic, and one of those
Wow.
videos of from South Africa from the sharks. And, they chum them in and then you go on the cage. But I took a spot next to the cage. When you come in the boat, I immediately took a spot next to the cage so that I could video because the water, it was pretty windy. So the water was kind of murky. So you could see the sharks close by, but it wasn't clear. But from above, because they chum him right to the cage.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I got some great video.
Did you ever feel like maybe the cage was not enough, and like if that shark wanted to, it could take you at any moment?
Well, there's a video of a shark that sticks his head inside a cage.
Oh yeah. What, didn't they get that when they were filming for Jaws, I think?
Yeah, well, everybody's seen that video.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's
you have to
happened.
be careful.
I think it's happened a few times from.
The problem is that I'm a short guy, and I couldn't get my feet all the way down. So in one situation, I got my leg all the way out between those bars.
Oh my God.
So I said, that's not happening again.
Looking like a chicken wing out there. Just
Yeah.
Oh man,
So,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So that was an interesting experience.
Let me ask you this: what was so you grew up in Cuba, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was born in Cuba. My father loved the ocean, so he introduced me to the.
Tell me about
ocean.
your relationship with your father and how much of your success he got to witness, and,
Well,
and what that
father,
meant, and what that meant to him. Like, just I want to hear a little bit about you and your dad, because I know
my
you guys had
father
a special
my
relationship.
father loved the ocean, and he would tell me stories about Hemingway and meeting Hemingway and Hemingway's captain and my father fished a lot before I was born. Then when he got married and we started having children, it was more difficult. But we would go fishing in the Almendares River, which is a river that was not too far from where we lived. And there was this guy that was a professional fisherman, but on weekends and stuff, he took us off like in a charter. There were no charter fishing people over there or anything like that. But my father paid him, and we went bottom fishing all around Havana and stuff like that in 40, 50 feet of water. And that's how I learned to fish. And then some of my older friends, because most of the kids my age were not allowed to go by the seashore, but, my father allowed me to go. So I had older friends. I was like 10 and most of my friends were 15, 17, whatever. We go to the seashore in the Malecon, which is this big seawall in Havana. And the spinning reels were being first time introduced into Cuba in the 1950s. And I learned how to use spinning rods and cast lures and all that. And I still did a lot of spear fishing over there and fishing for octopus, with snorkel and stuff like that. Because, the entire Havana coastline is rocky. It's all limestone rocks. So I would jump in the water and we could there wasn't a lot of fish, but there was a lot of octopus and stuff.
What was the first fish you caught with your dad?
Well, the first fish I ever caught, I didn't catch with my dad.
Gotcha.
We caught a lot of grunts and little groupers and stuff like that. And then when I was just, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 years old, we started going to the westernmost province in Cuba, Pinar del Rio, to a little fishing village, which was called El Morrillo. And there we fished with this guy that had a wooden boat that was maybe 17 feet long or maybe 20 at the most. And he had a Briggs and Stratton 4-cycle small engine that was really used to power a generator. But in Cuba, they used them for boats, and you cranked it by hand. And when you cranked it, it went pat, 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 like that. Choco, 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 choco. And we went on that day and night. We fished. This guy would go out at night, no lights, there was no GPS, no compass, no nothing. And we would go and fish for yellowtails and groupers and stuff like that. And he would come back. How these people knew how to navigate like that is beyond me.
Just like Santiago.
Exactly. Just like Santiago.
Unbelievable.
Just like the old man from The Old Man and the Sea.
That's it. Favorite book of all time. Let me ask you
we
this.
didn't go as far. We didn't go as far as Santiago.
Yeah, he went all the way. He almost went to Miami.
but these guys in Cuba navigated like that.
Yeah, you think they used the stars, or they just had a gut
I
feeling?
wish I knew. I don't know. I was too young to really pay attention to that. But now I look back and say, "Oh my God!"
So how did your family end up coming to America?
Well, when Castro took over, he was supposed to be a Robin Hood that was getting rid of a dictator. The problem was he wasn't a Robin Hood, he was a communist. And yes, he got rid of one dictator of the right and created a dictatorship of the left, of communism. And that's what we have in Cuba today. And we've had it for the last, I don't know, since 1959. When January 1st, 1959 is when he came in. And we came to the United States in November of 1960, just before Kennedy was elected president.
Wow.
So if we had been in Cuba 2 years, by that time we knew that things were bad news.
And what did your parents do that allowed them and your family to get out of there? Because I mean, wasn't
my
it tough to get
father
out
was
of there?
in the sugar business.
Okay.
And the people that owned the sugar mills, the company that he worked with in Cuba, had a couple of sugar mills here. So he came. And he got a job. You know, we went to the American embassy and got our permits and all that.
Yeah.
And he came to the United States to work in one of the sugar mills. So we spent about a month in Miami Beach, and then we went to Vero Beach because there was a sugar mill called Fellsmere in a little close to the town of Fellsmere, which is just north of Vero Beach. Maybe not too far from where you live. Well,
no, it's not too far at all. Let me ask you this, and we're gonna go off script a little bit here, but as someone who came to America, you know, escaped like pretty much a communist dictator and knows what that all entails, what do you think about the current climate in America right now?
I don't know. The politics are too complicated. I'd rather not. If I have something to say, is that we all need to understand that we are Americans first.
Yeah.
And as long as we can come to that realization and not worry too much about whether the Republicans or Democrats or independents or this or that or the other, that we all need to realize that the challenges in this world are very complicated and we need to be unified. And hopefully one day we will reach that.
I hope so, man. I hope so, but right now it's looking pretty dismal out here. I don't know. I'm just hoping for the best and praying to God every night. That's all I could really do. I don't know. So, but yeah, that was a little off script. I just really wanted to know because I mean, I'm sure you guys had, you know, relatives that were still stuck back there, right? Like when you guys all got here, like I'm sure.
Well, we had some distant relatives. A lot. As my cousins came. They actually came with a Peter Pan program because my uncle wanted to stay because he was the head of KLM, which is a Dutch Airlines in Cuba, and everybody thought that the dictatorship was going to be a passing fancy and whatever, but it turned out not to be. So my cousins came they were Peter Pan here, you know, where the kids came by themselves, and the Catholic Church took them in.
Wow.
And created a special program, and there are a number of people now which are retirement age now that came from that Peter Pan program. I came with my parents, but my cousins came by themselves, and then their parents came later. So most of our family was here, but we had some distant cousins that are still there. I went back. I didn't go back for 50 years.
Yeah.
And then I went back with IGFA because I was an IGFA representative at that time and a good friend of the president at that time, which is Rob Kramer. And Rob was invited to go to Cuba, and he said, Marty, you come and be our guide. So I actually ended up going to Cuba a number of times. We went to, our main objective was to try to convert the Hemingway tournament to circle hooks. The Hemingway tournament was catch and release, but...
Oh, you were on the circle hook mission, kind of like how Tim Choate was.
We were on the mission, and then there was another representative of IGFA that was an Italian guy named Giuseppe Obegna, and Giuseppe is the guy that runs all of the operations over there for fishing, like Gardens of the Queen and some of the other areas where you can go fishing. and had a lot of bonefish and tarpon and permit. And so he invited us to go, and we went fishing a number of times. I went back to the island for the first time. I was afraid, but I was welcomed by everybody. Everybody was happy to see me. Not the government, but everybody else was. And I made very good friends with a guy that was the president of Federation of Cuban Fishermen. And these were all poor guys that didn't have boats, fish mostly from land, but they were really nice people, and I became very good friends with them. And also with the Comodoro or the Hemingway Club, Jose Miguel Diaz Escrich. And the Comodoro is an old military guy, but he's fighting with the government all the time and trying to create more marine related activities, sailing, yachting, fishing.
like tourism stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's still there fighting for more people coming from other countries to visit Cuba and participate in marine related activities and stuff. And for a while he was the chairman of the Hemingway tournament. Then he got into fights with the government and he did not. But he remains the Comodoro of the Hemingway Club.
He's still alive, still doing it.
And he's been here visiting a couple of times. His daughter lives here, but he wants to stay there and keep the Hemingway Club alive, and that's great. So I made a lot of friends, but I haven't been in a while. And to be honest with you, I'm just after I saw a Russian submarine a few weeks ago entering Havana Harbor, it kind of scared me.
Oh my God. Yeah, because you lived through the Cold War too. I mean, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of So I said, I don't think I'm gonna. I'm 78 now. I'm not. I got a lot of other places I can go.
Yeah,
and not risk.
That's a lot. What was it called again when Castro? Was it when he nationalized Cuba and he took everybody's assets, and that was when he took the Pilar from Hemingway?
Well, the idea. It's obviously a failed. The only thing that they were able to prove is that the idea is a failed idea. Yeah. They eliminated every vestige of private enterprise, and when they did that, they created a brain drain. Everybody that wanted to succeed and get ahead and whatever left the country.
Yeah,
and then the people that stayed either couldn't leave or thought that was that they're going to write it to see how this happened. And basically, if you take the incentive from people, improve their lives and raise their children under better conditions and whatever, if you take that incentive away, it's really bad. So now the whole country, all the people pretty much depend on the government, and the government, like most governments, but that one even more, it's not efficient. Private enterprise is 1,000 times more efficient than any government. So they, and now that, when Russia supported the island economically, they got away with no tourism and doing whatever they wanted to do.
Right. Yeah.
But when Russia withdrew all that support because the Soviet Union dissolved, Cuba went through a very difficult period, and then they came out of there by creating tourism and starting little bits of private enterprise. But every time they try a little bit of private enterprise, then they do it in fits and starts. And, some of the Cuban people start doing well. Then they don't want a middle class. They don't want anybody that can resist the government. So if everybody's totally dependent on them and suppressed, they remain in power. And today, they are really a military dictatorship.
They have tourism, though.
They're very little. No, now they have very little. They're back into a bad area after the pandemic.
That's kind of what I was following, because I feel like I saw a lot of people posting on social media that when they lifted the ban or whatever, a lot of Americans went to Cuba to visit. Then
I went to, I took my family over there during the Obama administration because things were better for a while. But, I was hoping that the Cuban government would understand that, a rapprochement with the United States had to be a two-way road. Couldn't be just the United States trying on this side and then doing nothing on that side.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of what ended up being. They're still suppressing the people and arresting people that want to complain. And,
there's no free speech. Nobody can even complain.
No. And they had a demonstration a while back because things were so bad, and they arrested hundreds of people. And a lot of them are still in jail. So no free and no.
Yeah.
we need to understand that we need to value our ability to speak here.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I think a lot of people take it for granted. And I think they're chipping away at it too. But I want to, anyway, I want to bring it back to fishing, and it's definitely not a political show, but I do appreciate your insight on that. I want to hear a little bit about the Miami Beach Rod and Reel Club. What was your involvement with that? But I almost actually, before I even get into that one, this is one of the big ones sticking out for me. How did you afford to chase these world records? Like what was your day job? Like how did you fund this dream?
I went to medical school and became an internist, and I became a board certified specialist in internal medicine. But when I was finishing my training, I got an opportunity to get a part-time job in an emergency room in South Dade. And the guy that would own that contract for providing physicians to that emergency room invited me to come and be part of his group. And to make a long story short, I never practiced internal medicine. I went into emergency medicine, and people thought I was crazy because at that time, the emergency physicians were people who had not been able to do well anywhere else. Emergency rooms were not considered a place for high quality medicine. But we started changing that, and we developed a group, and we provided very good care. And then doctors that were at different hospitals went to the hospitals were having trouble and say, hey, look, these guys are doing real good over there. Why don't you invite them to come over here and start a group over here? So we started growing and growing and growing. And then we merged with another group from Broward County. And then we merged with another one or two more groups. And at the end, we took the company public. And then another company came and bought us out. And when that happened, I retired. But in between that...
That's awesome. How old were you when you retired?
50-something.
Beautiful.
So in between that...
That's a dream, man.
I became the director of the emergency room at Cedars, which is a big hospital across from the university, from Jackson. At that time, it was 400 bed. It's still 400-bed hospital. Now it's owned by the University of Miami. And the director of the intensive care unit left, and I had training in intensive care when I was in my training. So I took over that intensive care unit and created the first full-time critical care program in South Florida, where we had a doctor in the intensive care unit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That was brand new.
Wow.
So we did that. And then I got involved in the HMO business, and I became the chief of staff of that hospital. And then through the HMO business, I ended up what's called today Medicare Advantage. I don't know if you have TV, you see the ads for the Medicare patients to join this program where they don't have to pay anything out of pocket and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up the medical director of the program that was the model for that.
Wow.
The guy that started that, which was down here, was called the Gold Plus Plan at Cedars, was a guy named Miguel Recare, and he got indicted and flew the coop to Spain, and the company went bankrupt.
He got indicted for what? What did he get indicted?
Their number one most important demonstration project for Medicare Advantage, which wasn't called that at that time. You know, the owner had flew the coop.
Oh
so they send somebody from the state to take it over, and that person hired a group from Wichita, Kansas, to come and run it, until they could sell it or do something with it.
Yeah.
And those people asked me to become their medical director of the receivership team. That's what it was called, the receivership team. So I did that for a few weeks. Humana took over, and the guy that Humana appointed to take over down here, very nice guy, said, Marty, do you mind staying for a couple of weeks until I find a Humana doctor to take over? And I said, sure. I stayed 2 years.
Wow.
On loan from my company. So I helped save Medicare Advantage.
That's beautiful. That's amazing.
So I had a crazy roller coaster career.
That's wild. So you said...
Started in an emergency room and ended up being a public company executive.
Oh my God, it's crazy. And that whole time you're also chasing world records?
No.
Not yet?
Not all the time.
Not till you retired?
No. In Cuba and here until 1990, my fishing was mostly involved, or spear fishing and diving or whatever, was mostly involved, like most everybody else. Let's catch something to bring home to eat.
Yeah.
In 1990, my wife bought me a trip for Father's Day because our daughter Danielle was about to be born. She bought me a trip with the dean of Biscayne Bay bonefish fishing, a guy named Bill Curtis. And Bill introduced me to fly fishing. And he was very happy that he had been made an honorary member of the Rod and Reel Club. So he invited me to come to the Rod and Reel Club, and I joined. And now I was rubbing elbows with some of the best anglers in the world every Wednesday. Every Wednesday there was a dinner, and there was a program with a presentation from a guide or some international angler or somebody. And who was there? Guys like Carlos Solis and Billy Pate and all kinds of famous anglers, Chico Fernandez. And there I learned to fly fish and to accurately spin cast and to plug cast. The Run Reel Club had a advancement system. You came in with a white badge, which was a novice. You caught 8 or 10 fish under their rules, and then you became an angler. And then you caught more fish and showed proficiency in casting, spin, fly, and plug casting, and caught all kinds of more fish. And then you advanced to expert angler. And then the ultimate thing was to become a master angler. So I loved all of that. So I did all of that. And they had annual competition.
What were the levels again? What did you start out as?
Novice, angler,
Yep.
expert, and master.
Hey everyone, this is Victor Lucia, founder of the Brooklyn Fishing Club. If you've been listening for a while and want to be part of what we're building, now's the time to join the club. For just $200 a year, members get serious perks. 20% off all shop purchases, expeditions, and fishing lessons, plus a free hat and t-shirt when you sign up. You'll also get one free guided trip with me, invite-only club events, access to VIP destination adventures, and exclusive online seminars with special guests from the fishing world. It's more than a membership. It's your all-access pass to the Brooklyn Fishing Club community. Spots are limited, so head to brooklynfishingclub.com and join today. Brooklyn Fishing Club, where New York City goes fishing. What did it take to become a master?
Well, to become a master, you had to do all of the other ones.
Right.
One of the things that you had to do to become an expert angler, you had to pass a test where you could accurately cast and hit a target 50 feet away with a fly rod, with a spinning rod, and with a bait cast.
All three?
Yes.
What?
All three.
That is badass. I love that.
You really needed to learn how to handle all fishing equipment. And then you had annual competition, you had fly competition, you had Florida competition, you had general competition that included international angling. And I got involved in all that craziness, and that's where I learned. Now, by that time, I could afford to fish with guides. So pretty soon I became friends with this pharmacist that owned a building from a clinic that we bought in the HMO business. And him and I became fishing buddies. And every Thursday we would go fishing. And we would split at that time it was a lot less expensive than it is now. A lot less.
Yeah.
So we would split a trip. We fish a lot with Rick Murphy. We fish, in Key West with Ralph Delves. We went on some international trips. And that's where I learned to fish. And I did that in 1990. In 1994, I caught my first world record. And then oh my God, if I ever get to 10 records, that would be great. And then I got to 10 records and said, well, maybe I had to move. And then in 2003, IGFA started a program where every year they gave awards for the people who caught world records. And there were kids' records and women's records and men's records and freshwater and saltwater. And so they gave all kinds of records. So the first year that IGFA did that, I won the fly. I had the most fly records that year.
Wow.
And then by the next year, I had accumulated in 2004. I had accumulated by that time, which had been 14 years since I joined the Run Reel Club. I had 100 records. So I got a special Lifetime Achievement Award. And that was a great program. Regretfully, IGFA, after about 15 years, did away with that program. And I'm sad that they did that.
What do you think it was? Just like a budget cut or something?
I don't know. Yeah. Probably part of it. And
always comes down to the dollars.
But that was a great program. And, kids from all over the world came and participated that were entering records and young adults and women and from different parts of the world. And we ended up, my son Martini got a Lifetime Achievement Award. I got the first one, and then my wife got one.
You can't beat that.
When she got to 100 world records. So, and then shortly after that, it got phased out. I kind of, by that time, I was a record hunter, and I was going all over the world. And what I enjoyed about that is that I found out, my friend Pat Ford whom you should talk to. He's a great angler and a great fishing photographer. He sent me a picture of Larry Dahlberg with this weird fish from Suriname in South America.
Let me just tell you something. I got to tell you this because this is really funny. As we're talking, I was going through business cards or whatever from that night that I met you at the IGFA auction, and whose card is on the top? Pat Ford Photography.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Well,
I got him right here. I'm going to call him.
Yeah. Pat Ford taught me a lot about fly fishing. And when I started fly fishing, he already had a white marlin record on fly. So he's done a lot of really serious fishing, but he's become even more serious about photography. And he's probably one of the prominent angling photographers in the world now.
Yeah.
He's got more covers in fishing magazines than anybody else.
So he's got covers like you have records, kind of.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Everybody, and the leopard doesn't really change his spots very much. So I was always,
you're right.
I was always seeking different things, and so fishing became the next thing. And what I love fishing all of my life. I love the ocean since I was a little boy. So we did that, and then my wife got involved in it, and she started entering records, and she entered the International Women's Fishing Association. And she started competing there and winning different awards and stuff. And pretty soon she had over 100 world records, and she got a Lifetime Achievement Award from IGFA. And then, a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago or so, I'm driving down to Publix to buy food, and it's late January. And my wife calls me up and says, listen, I just looked at a message I got last night. The president of IGFA wants to talk to me. Do you know why he wants? Well, I've been a trustee for 10 years. I'm retired now from being in the board of trustees, but I had been a trustee for 12 years.
Yeah.
So I said to her, I have no idea why Jason wants to talk to you. You call him up, then you'll find out. And I said, okay, I'll let you go so you can call him up. 10 minutes later, I didn't reach Publix. She calls me back. You won't believe this. He says I'm being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So she said to Jason, I think you're wrong. You mean my son, Martini. And Jason said, no, ma'am, it's you. So she was incredulous that she was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, but she's very quiet. She doesn't like publicity.
What do you guys do to celebrate after that call? You go out to dinner?
Well, we were all very, very proud of her. She's she loves fly fishing.
How'd you guys meet?
I hired her to work with me at the hospital at Cedars when I was there running our emergency room company with my partner.
Gotcha.
And we needed she's a nurse, and she was an administrator of one of the hospitals. And then she went to Japan and spent a year in Japan and came back, and she was looking for a job. So I interviewed her for that job, and she came to work with us. And then when I got this HMO opportunity, she came to work with me in the HMO, and we ended up falling in love and getting married.
That's freaking beautiful, man. I love it. I love it. So how did she deal with your fishing addiction when when you guys first?
Well, she loved fishing herself.
Oh, she did.
When we started dating. We would go to the Keys because they had a house in the Keys.
Oh, that's awesome.
That my partners and I don't know. We spend the weekend in the Keys.
Oh, that's
fishing
so
and diving.
cool. That's so cool, man. I love it.
Our boat was called Tanqueray Time.
Tanqueray Time.
When we came back, I don't ever drink on a boat. But when I came home and I tied the boat up to the dock, I made myself a gin and tonic.
Yeah, there you go.
And then we would go to Marker 88 restaurant for dinner, which was a great place at that time in the 1980s.
Do you have a favorite fish to eat?
We love to cook.
Yeah.
You're talking about favorite fish to eat?
Yeah. So you do a lot of you do a lot of cooking too. I mean, we talked about how you
and my son. I learned from my father, and I think I improved a little bit on my dad. And my son has just gone crazy. He's a student of culinary stuff, and he has recipes from all over the world.
I feel like I need to do another interview with like the whole family.
So he's
so great. You guys are the American
I
dream,
cook a lot.
man.
I love to make paella. I smoke fish. I have a little smoker. I smoke fish, and I make a great smoked fish pate. I learned a lot of recipes when we had a house in the Keys and we went to dinner at Marker 88. They specialized in cooking all kinds of fancy fish recipes. So I learned 2 or 3 really good recipes from Marker 88 restaurant.
That's a really cool name for a restaurant too, Marker 88.
I love.
Is it still there or no? It's not. Is it still
I think
there?
it is, but I think the owner, the people that the guy that owned it when we in the 1980s is not there anymore.
Yeah. Was there ever a time where you kind of gave up on the world record chase and you were like, I'm done with this, and then came back to it?
When I was a trustee and I was at one point appointed to the angling committee, I decided to stop entering records because I didn't want criticism or whatever, people saying, well, Marty is making his own rules. When people get jealous, they say all kinds of stupid stuff.
Yeah, they do.
So I didn't want that to happen. So I decided, and I told the whole board of directors, I'm done. Because, I won on a board of directors meeting. Somebody said, we've just, we're going to approve this fish in Europe. You got to go over there and catch it for records. And I announced to everybody, guys, I'm retired from records. But that's when I started taking my wife fishing a lot to the Everglades and here and there. And I became a guide. Not for anybody else and not for payment. I just started taking my wife fishing for records. And she started catching stuff, and she was entering not only in the IGFA, but also in her club, International Women's Fishing Association. So I went from being mostly an angler to being a guide. And I enjoy that probably even more. She says to me, Marty, aren't you going to fish? And I said, no, I'm happy. Let me move over here. Let's look for fish here. Let's look for fish there. And we fish internationally a lot. I'm getting stuff ready to go to Uruguay to fish for the golden dorados.
Wow.
To fish for records is for fish for records. It's not just, you go and you oh gosh, I caught a record. No. You study this thing. You look at the records, you see what's vulnerable, what are the possibilities, and you prepare all your line, you prepare all your tippets, you prepare all your flies. If you don't know exactly what's happening where you're going because it's a new venue or something in a new country, you call or you talk to people and you learn what you need to do so that when you go, you're totally prepared.
Yeah, you do your research for sure.
So I spend hours. I'm talking to you here. I'm sitting in my fly tying bench in my office. And I spent hours, and you won't believe how the SAT has extended my fishing time because I enjoy tying the knots and preparing the lines and tying flies and preparing jigs and thinking about strategy. And that's how we got to get all these records.
What do you think the biggest personal sacrifice that you've made is in terms of chasing these records?
I don't think I've made any sacrifice.
Yeah, I was thinking that as you're talking, because I'm like, it sounds like he brought his family with him every time. It wasn't like he spent time apart from them.
Experience. And, the whole family's been involved. It's not just me, because some guys don't necessarily include their families in their activities and whatever.
Right.
My wife and I included our children on everything. They travel with us everywhere, and we really dedicated ourselves to them. So everything that we did, we really did as a group.
Yeah.
And
do you have any grandkids now?
No grandkids.
Not yet.
No grandkids. Maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't force them to have kids. Well, first of all, only one is married. The other two, my daughter is getting married next month.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
And my son is getting married next year.
Oh, beautiful.
So they're not even married. They're in their 30s, but they're not married.
Those kids are coming. they're on their way.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I can't force them.
I'm the oldest of 3 boys. My 2 younger brothers don't have any kids yet. I just have one. So my mother only has 1 grandkid right now, but
take your kid fishing.
I do. I think I was telling you last night about my PB fish is that little amberjack in the backyard with him, having him help me reel it in while he's cracking up, and he's only 10 months old or whatever, and that's just the beginning. I mean, I go to places since he's been born. I went to Casa Vieja for the second time. The first time I went, I didn't have any kids, and second time, all I could think about the whole time was I cannot wait to bring him here and show him these sailfish and everything, and I'm
Well,
already
you
making
gotta wait a
plans.
few years for
I
that.
know. That's like I think you said your son had straight A's, and for his 8th grade graduation, you did something nice for him or something.
Yeah.
That's going to be something like that, where it's like, all right, we're going to
I
Casablanca.
took Martini to Fins and Feathers because I was, with Tim Choate's place.
Yeah, that's where I've been there
years ago.
The first year I went to Guatemala was they had changed the name, changed owners, and it was Pacific Fins. But that was the year we won the 5th annual Guatemala Invitational, 63 sailfish in 3 days, and we beat Peter Miller. No offense, Peter, and we beat George Gods, and we smoked everybody by 12 fish. One of the biggest fishing accomplishments of my life to date.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah, that Pacific Fins, I mean, it's a little different than Casa Vieja. I feel like Casa Vieja, you feel a little bit safer and more secure behind those walls.
I know David Salazar real well, and he's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And his wife is a part of my wife's fishing organization, the International Women's Fishing Association.
Yeah. David's a great guy.
When I go to Guatemala, I fish with with David. And
absolutely. Yeah, that's the way to do it. It's definitely the way to do it. I love Casa Vieja. When I was going through my doubts about continuing to teach, I actually emailed them and I was like, "You guys need a first mate? Like I'll come down there. I'll live in a freaking bungalow. I don't even care as long as I could get out to those sailfish grounds every day. That is just primo down there." You got any records down there in Guatemala?
No, because I made a commitment that I will not kill a billfish for a record.
Gotcha.
I told that to my fellow trustees, and that did not endear me to everybody, but I didn't care.
What are you going to do? I don't think you really care about how people feel when it comes to your records. This is your thing.
I don't. I've become very conservation oriented.
Yeah.
We created all kinds of ways of weighing fish so that we wouldn't have to kill them and process them for a record, getting the length or the girth, the weight, and then releasing them. And that's kind of what I like to do. I see this big marlin being killed, and it upsets me.
Yeah, I personally also hate to see big billfish killed. I don't know. I know it's a thing and whatever, but I can't. I don't know, unless the fish sounds and it dies, and you didn't have a choice. You had to bring it in anyway because it was going to die.
Well, that happens to everybody.
Yeah, that's different. But to actually put a gaff in a giant blue marlin, I mean, I don't know. I have way too much respect for that fish to even think about doing that. But I get that it happens, and I see the other side of it too. But with the way things are in the ocean, I don't know. I feel like there's only so many of those really big ones left out there at this point with the long lining and everything. I don't know.
When I was a lot younger, I did not know. I had no idea what's going on. But now that I am so keenly aware that our planet is not as big as we thought it was, and the resources in the ocean are not as limitless as we thought they were, we need to protect the environment, and we need to secure. Those big marlin are females, and when they spawn, they produce millions and millions of eggs. So why not catch them and then let them go? After you get them to the side of the boat.
So all the grander marlin they're females?
Yes.
Wow.
All of those big are females. Everybody has to go through their own evolution of understanding. So one of the things that I do, we didn't talk too much about it, but I've always been very involved in education.
Yeah.
I created a presentation years ago about marine reserves. I don't know when you talked to Bouncer, whether he mentioned any of that or not. But Bouncer and I and another friend, Captain Gilmore Atori, did a lot of work on marine reserves here in South Florida. And recently I became aware that because the whole business with Everglades, the water, Lake Okeechobee, water pollution and all that is so complicated and politicized that I started asking people that have been fishing here all their lives, some of them really prominent fishermen, and I tried to see if they understood how this whole system works and what the problems are and where the issues are with Lake Okeechobee and the water coming down and what can happen. And I found out a lot of people didn't know. So I put together a whole presentation to show people, and I try to do it totally apolitical. I don't blame anybody for anything.
Yeah.
It's
It's just the facts.
This
Yep.
is how we developed South Florida over the last 100 years, and this is what resulted, and this is what the issues are. And the water from Lake Okeechobee cannot come down to the Everglades, or it will kill everything. And this is what the state is doing now with the storm treatment areas to clean the water from the Everglades agricultural area. And I talk about how Lake Okeechobee was dammed and why it was dammed and all that. So I have a really good presentation. I've given it a few times to schools and fishing clubs and stuff like that. And I did the same thing for marine reserves years ago, working a lot with a National Parks Conservation Association.
So you feel like it's definitely important to give back, right? I mean, that's kind of like the message I'm getting here.
Very important. And well, that, but you see what's happened. I mean, I've been diving here since the 1960s. And when you get to go in the water, you see, I mean, in the 1960s, the fishing was so good. All of the coral patches out here in front of Elliott Key and Sands Key and all this area and Key Largo and further south, they were loaded with groupers and snappers and big hogfish. And all of that is gone. All of that is gone.
And what do you think the main cause of that is? Pollution or just boat traffic?
It's a combination of things.
Yeah.
I'm writing about that in my book that I'm writing about. Kind of what I'm talking to you about, I'm writing a book about. And one of the things that I think that initially there was a lot of commercial fishing issues. I mean, I remember Bill Curtis telling me how when they had those roller rigs that were netting mackerel,
yeah,
to sell them before the net ban, all of these rigs confused big schools of bonefish for mackerel.
Oh,
and they killed millions of bonefish. Bill Curtis told me that. So, at that time,
millions.
The commercial interests were the bad guys, and we, the recreational fishermen, were the good guys.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter now is that the commercial industry down here is almost gone because there's not enough fish for them down in, especially Dade and Broward and whatever. And there are millions of recreational fishing boats. So we've seen the enemy, and the enemy is us.
Damn.
But a lot of people don't want to realize that.
So what's the solution?
The solution, in my point of view, is that we need to realize that we need to create some zones where the fish are allowed to grow so that when they spawn, they can produce millions of eggs and revitalize the whole coastal environment. But there is a major resistance to that. And as a result of that, every scientific paper that has been published about what to expect about fish resources in South Florida is that we have unsustainable levels and decreasing. So what we can do about it? What we can do about it is what was done in the Tortugas, is create a network of marine reserves that will still allow plenty of places to fish in between them, talking about a small percentage of the coastline.
Uh-huh.
But areas where the groupers can grow to full size, so that when the groupers spawn, a big grouper female will eject millions of fertilized eggs, rather than a small one that is barely able to reproduce, only produce a few 100,000. That concept is being resisted by most anglers in South Florida. So I am in a minority saying that.
Why is that?
And it doesn't make me popular.
Why is that?
But I understand that.
Why is that, though? Because of the money?
By the way, Bouncer got me involved in this process. I don't know whether you had an opportunity to talk to him about it, but Bouncer got me involved in this process a number of years ago. And we created presentation, Captain Gil Moratori, Bouncer, and I. And we did these presentations all over South Florida, from Palm Beach all the way to the Keys, to civic organizations, high school, fishing clubs, anybody that wanted to hear it. And as a result of that, and we worked with the National Parks Conservation Association, they gave us the annual Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Award a couple of years ago.
Wow.
For conservation.
I was just saying, would you say that's one of your proudest achievements?
Well, I'm very happy about that. I'm depressed that we were not able to accomplish our goals.
Yeah.
Because we're still not having a network of marine reserves. So, all the scientific papers that are written about the fish stocks in South Florida, they say there are unsustainable levels which means the only thing that we can expect is for the numbers to decrease, because if they cannot reproduce themselves to even keep up at a certain level, then all they can do right now is just continue to decrease. We cannot continue to take every large fish out of the reef as soon as they're big enough to be taken, and not expect what's happening not to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But one day, maybe we'll get it done. Now, the evidence is clear also that when I started fishing with my kids, we will go out the Coral Gables Waterway Canal here and stop in front of, in the bay and put a chum bag and catch a bunch of pinfish to go and catch amberjacks or put them, in a kite for sailfish and whatever. And I never caught a mutton snapper. And now, if you fish down here in Biscayne Bay, in the bottom somewhere, you're probably going to catch a mutton snapper. A little one, but you're going to catch a mutton snapper. Because 20 years ago, a marine reserve was created in the dried tortugas in a place called Riley's Hump that had a huge aggregation of mutton snappers. And before the marine reserve was created, people used that aggregation of mutton snappers as an opportunity to catch many, many snappers. When it was closed, before it was closed, there were only a few thousand fish left coming to spawn. Now, millions of fish come to Riley's Hump to spawn, and Rosenstiel published a map showing where all the fertilized eggs go, and they go all the way up to Jacksonville on the East Coast and halfway the West Coast. I don't know why they only go halfway on the West Coast, but that's what they published. And now you have little mutton snappers all over. So the concept works really, really well, and the South Florida Barrier Reef is ideal for it. But that's what's going on.
Man, I feel like we could talk for like 8 hours. I've got even more questions for you, but I know it's getting late. I don't know. Do you want to do another call and I'll just edit the whole thing?
Well,
in?
yeah. Why don't we, think about what you want to talk about? And we can talk.
Yeah, I've got my whole notepad here, all everything. I want to hear more about a lot of things. I've heard Alan Zaremba come up a few times. I've heard Bill Curtis. I want to hear about them. I want to hear about the Metropolitan Fishing Tournament.
We didn't talk about the Metropolitan Fishing Tournament.
And we've got more to even talk about. So maybe early next week we could, or any time that's good for you next week, maybe we could hop on.
Yeah, find out. Give me a call or send me a text early next week and see what. I think I'm here all week.
Okay, great. Yeah, and any time that works for you after 6:00. And another thing that's interesting is not next week, but the week after, I'm interviewing the guys from the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. So there's a few notes that I took here that I want to talk to them about based off what we said here tonight too. So yeah, this is all really good stuff. But yeah, man, thank you so much for your time. And I'll shoot you a text, and you got to send me some of these pictures.
I can text you some, but if you give me an email.
Yeah. Brooke, yeah. I'm going to text you.
Do me a favor. Send me a text with your email.
Okay, no problem. I will definitely. I'll do that.
And what do you want me? What do you want us? What pictures? I mean, we never talked about before I even talk about pictures, we never talked about the Met. One time I went to catch a pirarucu in South America with a sunglass company, Costa del Mar Sunglass Company, and that's an interesting story. I caught the first royal billfish slam on fly, all the billfish of the world on fly. That was another interesting story.
Oh my God, the first royal billfish slam on fly? Man, you're like Michael Jordan in this shit, man. This is unbelievable. I feel like I said wow more times in this episode than I've ever said in any episode ever. Yeah. It's an honor to even talk to you, man. Honestly, thank you so much.
When I was a kid, I wrestled with a big octopus in Havana.
There we go.
That crawled up my arm and went right into my face. That was about 5 or 6 pounds. It was, I was only 10 years old at the time, so it was a big. So I have all kinds of stories.
Oh man, yeah, we're gonna do a part 2 next week, and I'm not gonna release it until I have everything, and I'll put it together. I like to sit back and take a few days, edit it out, make it sound really crisp, take out all my wows, it's pretty much just gonna sound like you just telling stories. I'm gonna try to take my voice out as much as possible.
It's been a pretty unstructured conversation.
Yeah.
Got it. It's good. I mean, that's the best.
It's just two fishermen talking. That's it. That's it, man. So anyway, Marty, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, send me your email, and I will send you some pictures of some of the stuff we talked about, some of the shark
Definitely.
and that big blackfin tuna.
I got all these notes here. Yeah, definitely. I got you. Thank you.
All right.
All right. I hope
Okay, so then you send me that, and you call me early next week and let me know when you want to do it. I'm pretty sure that I'm free in the evenings all week next week.
Beautiful. All right, we'll line something up. This is going to be a great episode.
Yeah, it's almost 10 o'clock. Wow.
I know.
They can suck up a big fish. So this peacock was 14 pounds.
Freaking pounds. It is crazy.
So
what was the fight on that like? Walk me through the fight on it after it takes the Clouser. How's that fight?
Well, the most important thing is that you got to have a kind of a brain to muscle memory as to just how much pressure you can put on a 4-pound tippet. Understanding that when you first hook the fish, you cannot put any pressure at all because the fish is scared, something is bit him in the mouth, and it's pulling on him, and they are swimming really hard. But once they settle down, then you got to figure out how much pressure you can put, and you got to be able to release that pressure right away if the fish all of a sudden wants to swim harder. And that is one of the most difficult things to kind of gauge in fighting a big fish on light tippet, is just how much pressure you can put on that fish before you break the tippet. And that comes by what we call trial and error, basically losing a lot of fish before you learn how to do that.
Definitely.
So I did that for that fish, and I was able to land. So that one afternoon, I caught 2 really significant world records, in Brazil on peacock bass. I caught I caught a number of records on the Orinoco peacocks and some of the other species that are record fish. But Cyclatemensis, the speckled peacock, and I got appointed to the angling rules committee. So when that happened, I decided to quit entering records, because I didn't want people to be talking trash. Oh, he's making his own rules. He's doing this, he's doing that. So I retired from entering records.
It brings me to the question of all those world records. How much shit talking from people did you have to deal with?
Not much. I mean, maybe people talk, when I'm not around. I don't know.
Yeah.
A couple of times, people wondered some of the fish that I was catching and stuff. And I really never had too much challenge to what I was doing, probably primarily because I was fishing with very renowned guides. I caught my first records with Rick Murphy. I caught my swordfish with Bouncer Smith and a whole bunch of records as well. And I caught some of my big sharks with Ralph Dells. When I fish in Costa Rica, I fish with a guy by the name of Bobby McGinnis that is extremely well respected over there. So it wasn't a situation where I was fishing without the presence of some really renowned guides, which I think that made it difficult for people to be questioning and complaining and stuff.
Yeah. So you said the first one was with Rick Murphy?
Yes, the first world record, yes.
It's so funny. I met him at Casa Vieja Lodge in January. He was in the shuttle going back to the airport after a 3-day trip with me.
Yeah?
And I've been trying to get him on the podcast. I haven't really reached out because I haven't been doing it. Took a little break, but I would love to get in touch with Rick. He seemed like a legend. He had his whole crew with him. They just shot like a TV show. He seemed like a badass dude.
Yeah, well, he lives down here in South Dade County, so not too far from you.
Nice. So what was the world record with him?
Well, I was actually trying to catch a tarpon world record, and I hooked, at that time, this is 1994. I had joined the Rod and Reel Club a few years before, and I had learned a lot about fly fishing and light tackle fishing. And I said, well, I'm kind of ready. I had entered a couple of Rod and Reel Club records already. So I said, okay, well, we're going to try for a tarpon record. And the 4-pound tippet fish at that time was in the upper 30, I think. I don't have the book in front of me, and that's all. Many years ago, that record changed quite a bit since. So we went out and I hooked the fish, and we must have fought this fish for 2 hours. And then to make a long story short, we lost it at the gaff. Gaffing a big fish like that with 4-pound tippet, you can't stop the fish cold, even though the fish was really tired and almost stopped. But gaffing a small fish most tarpon is very difficult. A big tarpon, when you hit him with a gaff, you got a lot of weight and the gaff tip will sink in. But with a smaller fish, this gaff got a big scale, so it didn't go in right away, and it kind of pushed the fish or pulled the fish. Ended up the fish jumped and broke the tippet and didn't get gaffed. So it is still legal to gaff them today. You can only, at that time, even to kill a tarpon, you had to have a special permit, which you bought from the state, a tarpon tag. And by doing that, they eliminated a lot of people just killing tarpon for pictures and stuff like that. So you can only kill a tarpon if you had a tag. And that has evolved over the years. Now you can only kill a tarpon if you have a tag and your purpose is a world record. That's the only reason you can kill a tarpon today in Florida. So it didn't work out. That fish got away. But then Rick said, I think that I saw a number of triple tails a couple of days ago laid up over in First National Bank. Let's go try to see what's going on over there. And we went over there, and there was a whole school of triple tails, and it was really calm. And I put in a 4-pound tippet, and I caught a 10-pounder. And then I put a 2-pound tippet, and I caught an 8-pounder. And that day I entered 2 world records for triple tails. And that was kind of the beginning of my becoming interested in entering records for IGFA. And I remember that I took those record applications to North Broward County, which is where IGFA was at the time. That building that there's today was not there. IGFA had an office in a strip mall. And I went over there and I turned the applications in. I remember that. And ever since, all of the applications that you already know, I mean, all the records that I've entered over the years, I always went to IGFA and turned them in personally. I never mailed them in. I did. I had, that I can remember, 2 situations where records were rejected.
Have you ever had any records rejected?
Yes, I had 2 records rejected that I can remember. The first one, this monofilament company sent me some samples, tippet-sized samples of line that was supposed to be IGFA, what we call tournament line that is supposed to test properly. Most of the lines that you buy at the store, if they say 10 pound, the company guarantees that it's not going to break under that number. So it may be a pound or 2 or 3 over. Tournament line, or if it's labeled IGFA, the company tells you that whatever number, let's say it's 10 pounds or 12 pounds or whatever, the company guarantees that that line will not break over that number. So it's like night and day. That's why, fishing for records is very technical and complicated. A lot of people will just buy a spool of line and catch a fish and they think they have a record and they turn it in and they get rejected because the line over-tested. In my case, the problem was that this line was it was 2-pound test line and it was supposed to test good. And I caught an arowana in Brazil on 2-pound tippet and I turned it in and the line over-tested. But the lady that was the record administrator knew me very well because I always turned my records in every time I caught a fish. And by that time, I had lots of fish that I had entered for records. She said, I don't understand what's going on here. So she mic'd the line. And the 2-pound line mic'd at 1.5 times the diameter. So basically, there have been an error in manufacture or an error in spooling the line. Maybe they spool 4-pound line into 2-pound tippet thing, and that's what they send me. So the line over-tested because of a manufacturing issue that I don't know about because I'm not involved in that, in manufacturing lines.
That's crazy.
And then I had another, and you learn from all the mistakes, The second one was I was looking with a young guy that was a very good guide. In Marathon, I was looking for a line-clad gray snapper, mangrove snapper, and I hooked one and I always bring my own stuff. I control every aspect of this process myself. So I brought the line, I brought my rod, I brought everything measured and whatever. So I have the line, which is, I don't remember what it was, 4 or 6-pound test. And the leader, for salt water can be up to 15 feet. In freshwater, it can only be 6 feet, but in saltwater, it can be 15 feet. So I had it all measured and I hooked this fish and it took me into a rock and broke me off. I was getting ready to bring another line that I had and, spool it into my reel. And my guy said, I have this already set up. It's 6-pound handy tournament. It's going to be fine. So I hooked the fish, landed it, and then he had another reel spool with 8 or something. And I used his reel and line for that. and he did not pay close attention to the leader size, and the leader was longer by 2 inches. And what I learned there is that I really needed to not trust anybody with record technical equipment, that I had to really own and control everything myself.
Yeah. So did it just get more complicated from there?
No, it got easier because I
right.
to this day, I control everything. I tie all my tippets.
Yep.
I prepare all my lines. I know the size that they have to be, and I own and control the whole process. And that's why I have been successful. I don't depend on anybody.
Let me ask you a question about the records you've caught from shore versus boat. What are we talking about, like a ratio there? Like, have most of them been from boat, or have you got a lot from land?
Most of them, I think most of the records that I've caught have not been from shore. Some have. For example, I just caught, when I came back into record fishing, I was in Argentina and we're fishing in Jurassic Lake, which has huge rainbow trout. And I caught this 21-pound rainbow, which was a record, not weight-wise, but length-wise, because IGFA started a number of years ago, length record system. And then it was all tackle initially, and then they also added fly. So I caught this fish on fly with a 15-pound tippet. There's no tippet categories. It's just the biggest one on fly that is legal fly, or the biggest one on general tackle that is legal general tackle. So this was a fly length record. And by the way, we can talk about the development of that whole length record system anytime that you want to during the podcast.
Absolutely. I'm making a note. We're going to come back to it.
Yeah, I was intimately involved in that. But so this one was a length record, rainbow trout from land. But most of the fish that I think I probably would say that my fish, freshwater and saltwater, about 50-50. Most of the fish that I caught in in freshwater, they were from some boat, in the Amazon or somewhere. And I caught a lot of fish in the Amazon. I caught a lot of fish here in South Florida for records. A lot of them with a guide, freshwater guide here that is a very good friend of mine called Alan Zaremba. Peacocks and mudfish and Oscars and a number of fish. So most of them were caught on boats. What we did because I've become very conservation oriented over the years, what we did is every fish that I caught in fresh water, we took to the bank of the river or the side of the whatever I was, and released the fish alive after weighing and measuring. You have to weigh it, measure, and photograph it, weigh it with a certified scale, and then we got really good at doing this very fast, not only for saltwater, but also for freshwater whenever possible.
Let me just ask you real quick. Can you explain to our listeners what a tippet is for the people that don't fly fish?
Okay. The fly leader that is used is called a tippet. And it's made out of primarily 3 components. You have the fly line, and then to the fly line, you attach the whole leader to the end of the fly line. Now, fly lines come with a built-in loop. So all you got to do is tie your leader tippet loop to loop. But the first section is what we call a butt section. It's a little heavier line, maybe 30 or 40 pounds or 50 pounds, depending upon the size of the line that you're using for the fly line. But the idea is that you want the leader and the fly line to kind of uncoil normally, evenly. So you want the butt section to be just a little thinner than the end of the fly line. And then to that, you attach your clasp tippet. And your clasp tippet is the part of the leader that is going to be measured if you enter it for a record. And that is the part that will be tested in a computer to see how it breaks. And it has to be a minimum of 15 inches long. Maximum can be any length, but that clasp tippet has to be a minimum of 15 inches long. Then right in front of that clasp tippet, you are allowed a heavier leader. But that heavier leader, which is called the shock tippet, can only be 12 inches long, including the knot that attaches the clasp tippet to the shock tippet. So for all the big fish that you catch, their pectoral fins and their heads, whatever, it's rubbing against the part that is going to break. So it's very different. In saltwater general tackle, you're allowed up to 20-pound test line, you're allowed 15 feet. Above 20-pound test line, you're allowed 30 feet. In fly fishing, no matter what tippet you use, your shock tippet can only be 12 inches. So you have the butt section, the glass tippet, and the shock tippet. And if you're going to fish against toothy fish, you want the shock tippet to be some kind of wire. And the best thing for that is Surflon or Steelon or something, which is a braided steel that is coated with monofilament. That is the easiest one to use to tie to the nylon glass tippet.
So are most of your records on the fly? Do you have any unconventional?
I have probably 50-50.
Okay. And how many total?
Exactly, I know more or less. I have not down an accounting today because I have fly records, I have line class records, I have all tackle records, and I have length records. So when you put all those that I caught over the years together, I have 430 something.
Wow.
I would say between the line class and the fly rod, they're probably 50-50. And between saltwater and freshwater, they're all probably also 50-50. Because I've done a lot of freshwater fishing. I've done a lot of Amazon fishing in Costa Rica. Well, Costa Rica mostly saltwater.
Did you go down for those big peacock bass down there?
I caught some really nice peacock bass on fly for records. Two that I remember the best is on a trip to the Tapara River in Brazil a number of years ago. I was invited to go on a expedition for 2 days beyond the camp to sleep on a tent in the middle of nowhere.
That's awesome.
Oh, and we went away, and it was really an awesome adventure. And we went up there and got into this lagoon, and there was a bed where the peacock bass set up, lay their eggs, and they protect the eggs. And this fish was big. So I put in a 6-pound tippet because I was looking for a 6-pound tippet record. And I hooked this fish, and it swam all over the lagoon. But I was very lucky that the water was really low at that time of year. So all of the sticks and bushes and stuff were outside where the fish could not swim to. So the fish swam me all over the lagoon until I got it tired. Again, fly fishing for a big fish, this fish was 15 pounds.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed this week's show and thanks for listening. If you haven't already, join the Brooklyn Fishing Club and become part of our crew. Members get 20% off all shop purchases, expeditions, and fishing lessons, plus a free hat and t-shirt when you sign up. It's only $200 a year. Head to brooklynfishingclub.com and sign up today. Brooklyn Fishing Club, where New York City goes fishing.
So catching a 15-pound peacock bass on 6-pound tippet was really tough. And then we found another bed. And now I dropped a 4-pound tippet. And I hooked this fish. When you see a big fish like that on a bed, if you throw, like I was throwing small clouds, you throw the clouser a little bit beyond the bed and you bring it and you kind of attack the fish with it. They really don't like that. They really get upset about that. And they attack that fly really fast. So I learned that in Brazil also, that technique, as well as here in South Florida where we fish for the smaller peacocks here in South Florida. So I hooked this one, and this one did not stay in the lagoon. This one left the lagoon and went into the river. And we fought this fish for over an hour swimming upriver. And luckily for me, the fish swam a little bit off the shallow water, and there were a couple of trees that were down into the river, and I was able to avoid, the fish did not go into the trees. So it took over an hour, and, we don't time these things. So I kind of try to figure out how long it's going to take. So the fish went way up river, and we finally started getting tired. And then when we were about to land the fish, my guide tells me there is a huge red-tailed catfish that wants to eat your fish. But luckily, we were able to net it before the red-tailed catfish attacked it. But I'm talking about a red-tailed catfish that had to be over 50 pounds.
All right, man. Well, you have a good rest of the night. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
You too.
Don't
Bye.
you walk on me.